On today's show, Golden State Warriors president of basketball operations and general manager Bob Myers decides to step down after 12 years and 4 titles. Why the decision to leave now of all times? And also, how does this impact the future of the Golden State Warriors, especially with the impending free agency of one Draymond Green and all the CBA ramifications right around the corner? We're going to unpack all that and more. It can be right here at Locked On NBA.
You are Locked On NBA, your daily NBA podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What's up and welcome to another edition of Locked On NBA, the biggest stories with the local experts. I'm your host, Jackson Gatlin, also host of Locked On Rockets right here on the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Now, today's episode is brought to you by Prize Picks. Next game, how about Nikola Jokic to score more than 26.5 points? What about Bam Adebayo to have less than 10.5 rebounds? How about Jimmy Butler to have more than 6.5 assists? Or what about Jamal Murray to have less than 3.5 three-pointers made? So what is Prize Picks? It's daily fantasy sports, but how does it work? Basically, you pick 2 to 6 players, but they score more or less than their Prize Picks projection. You can win up to 25 times back on your money on any entry that you submit. There's no competing against other people. It's just you versus the projections available. And Prize Picks offers projections on any sport that you watch. That's the NBA Finals, NFL, MLB, NHL. They've got you covered for everything. Entries can be made in 60 seconds or less. It's that simple. They're safe. They offer fast withdrawals. Currently operational in over 30 states and Canada. And right now, during the finals, one PrizePicks user will win a chance at becoming a millionaire. But you have to download the app to find out how. So download the PrizePicks app or go to prizepicks.com to sign up and play daily fantasy sports. First-time users can receive a 100% instant deposit match up to $100 with promo code LOCKEDON. That means if you deposit $100, PrizePicks will give you $100. If you deposit $50, PrizePicks will give you $50. So don't forget to enter promo code LOCKEDON at sign up for an instant deposit match up to $100. Joining us now is the host of Locked On Warriors, Cyrus Saatsaz. You can track down wherever you listen to your podcast and on YouTube. Just search Locked On Warriors. And Cyrus, you had the scoop on this before anybody else that longtime Warriors president and general manager Bob Myers will be stepping down, leaving the organization after 12 years. Let's start. I mean, why now? Why did Bob Myers ultimately decide it was time to step away from the franchise?
Well, it started with contract negotiations that wasn't going smooth. Joe Lacob has a tendency to initiate all negotiations with a lowball offer. Case in point, when Stephen Curry was due for his Supermax, Lacob initiated that negotiation with a 4-year deal, to which Stephen Curry and his reps were like, what? So eventually he got to 5 years and he got the money. In Bob Myers' case, there's a very strong possibility from what I'd heard that if the initial offer was the offer he wanted, which was a max, he wanted to be the highest paid GM in the game. That was not the original offer. That was not the second offer even that came in. And since then, the negotiations were shut down. And as the season went along, from what every indication tells, Myers really started to have second thoughts about the time he's spending away from his family. He has 3 young daughters with his wife, who a former Laker cheerleader, by the way, which I do think is important in this discussion, given you're choosing to step away as the leader of the Golden State Warriors. That's what he's stepping away to. He has probably more money than he ever needs in his life. He has a resume that stands almost alone. Very few other executives could present a resume like his. And he's got this beautiful family. So, and also you got to look at the Warriors themselves. They're about to enter a fascinating crossroads where things could go south in a hurry. And so Myers probably looked at that as well and thought, why not just step away now? It's a good time. So here we are.
So, I mean, should this be looked at as kind of a big time fumble by Warriors ownership then? Or because even if, we've seen this, I'll be honest, we've seen this excuse before. Daryl Morey used the excuse of wanting to spend more time with his family back when he decided to leave the Houston Rockets, as it was very evident that they were going to be heading into kind of the dark ages of a rebuilding process with James Harden wanting out. And then less than a month after he left the Rockets organization, he got scooped up by the Philadelphia 76ers. So should we be bracing ourselves for seeing Bob Myers potentially picked up by another organization somewhere else who is willing to shell out the money for him?
I would be shocked if it happened this offseason. I do think there is some genuineness to him wanting to spend time with his family and step away from the game. We've seen coaches and execs do this where they step away, they just never come back. They never want to. I mean, they've had their fill. It is a stressful job. It is it is almost like a marriage in and of itself. I mean, you're committed to this thing 24/7. You probably sleep it. You're probably dreaming it. It wouldn't shock me if he ever came out and said that. It would surprise me a lot if he took another job right away. I know people have alluded to the Clippers job being open, him reuniting with Jerry West. I think he's going to take that year off. I mean, and see what happens from there. Now, if he does take a job right away, that will tell me that this was a Lacob thing, and he wanted to get away from his owner. Who look, I mean, this is an owner who won 4 championships, but he also can be meddling. His son Kirk Lacob, it will probably be elevated to president of basketball operations. We're seeing sort of a Jerry Jones situation here with the Warriors, and a lot of fans are very concerned about that. But realistically, we're probably going to see a year off for Bob Myers. I know he started some podcast that no one listens to, but so maybe he's having fun with that. But it would surprise me if we saw him somewhere else.
I know you just mentioned Lacob's son there and how he might be elevated to the president of B-ball ops position. Myers was kind of in the unique position where he held both titles, right? And that's, there's very few, executives who actually hold both titles around the league. There's a lot of organizations that have a president and then a general manager, and they're two separate positions, multiple voices in the room. If that's the case moving forward, are there any names kind of on the preliminary horizon that the Warriors might be looking at to replace Myers, at least in the general manager role, if that's the name that you think they're going to be tapping to be the new president of B-ball ops?
My answer to that is I wish. One name that I would love to have come in is Brent Barry, who has been with the Spurs for a number of years now. I bring his name up because back in 2019, first of all, Bob Myers didn't hold both titles initially. He earned that through the years. And so what's likely going to happen is they're going to have two people in position, one as president of ops, one as general manager. And my guess is Kirk Lacob will take the president of operations job, and then Mike Dunleavy Jr., who's currently one of the assistant GMs, will take over the general manager position. Joe Lacob has said he wants to keep it in-house. He even alluded to that in the press conference. The press conference, by the way, it's worth noting that Lacob did not need to be up there with Bob Myers, by the way. That was a symbol, I think, of what Bob Myers has dealt with during his time with the Warriors. You have an owner who loves the attention, and that's part of it that he seems to cherish. But again, I bring up Brent Barry because back in 2019, Bob Myers decided he wanted to hire a right-hand man. And Brent was his pick. The ownership loved him as well, but Brent viewed it as a lateral move. His family is settled in San Antonio. They didn't want to really leave. So he turned it down, and they went with Mike Dunleavy Jr., who's now probably going to take the GM position, and then Kirk Lacob will take president of basketball operations. And part of that, too, is so that the nepotism criticism might be shielded because the GM is usually much more upfront. He's the one holding the press conferences. He's the one dealing with media. Your president of basketball operations is more behind the scenes. From an image perspective, which I think plays into this, that's what you'll see happen is you'll see Kirk take over as president, and then Mike Dunleavy Jr. would take over as GM. How that's going to go, I don't know anyone who could tell you. Just because Dunleavy's never been in that position before, Kirk Lacob's never been in charge. So these are curious times in Dub Nation.
And you mentioned, right, they're kind of entering this very precarious crossroads, if you will, this upcoming offseason. And you have Myers, who was a very well-respected general, executive around the league, and, commanded the respect of his peers, players, agents, coaching staff, all of that, right? And so how does this really impact kind of this offseason, especially for the Warriors moving forward, especially with the looming free agency of Draymond Green and trying to figure out kind of what direction the franchise is going to go next?
The Warriors are in a lot of trouble. And I think that's a huge reason why Myers left. Maybe not huge, but I think that played into it. The Warriors are in a spot right now with this new CBA punished any team that likes to spend and spends big. And the Warriors are in that position largely because of their own draft picks and re-signing them over and over again to these big deals. But the Warriors are in a spot right now where they're not going to have a mid-level exception. They're not going to be able to sign any veteran for more than a minimum deal, and that's only because the CBA allows it. So the only way they can improve is by trade. And you're probably going to see that. But here's another conundrum that the Warriors face. Ownership has come out and said publicly they don't want to spend over $400 million on payroll. They're projected right now, if they keep everyone in place, add the 19th pick in the draft, add some veteran minimum deals to fill out the roster, and they're not going to go over 14 probably. You're looking at a $490 million payroll. So not only does the next GM have to try to resurrect this team and maintain championship contender status, but you also have to shave off 90 million, and you have to do so with a system where your trades have to match within 75% salary wise. There's going to be some difficult choices to be made. So there's a very strong possibility Bob Myers saw this and was like, you know what, I've had a good run. Let someone else deal with this mess that's down the plate.
For a full breakdown on what Bob Myers stepping down from his position with the Warriors means, you'll have us covered for all of that and more over at Locked On Warriors. Cyrus, I appreciate you stopping by Locked On NBA with me.
Thank you, sir.